I'm glad that one finished it off. Joe Namath would have been good, too.
You know how this business works, too, though. The only thing I'll be thinking about now is Joe Namath. Oh. I'll say this much. And I
assume he was willing to do it, right?
More than willing to do it. He was asking about you. Like I said, he said, what's Ron going to do? Like, what's he planning to do? I told him everything you were planning to do right from the golf range yesterday. You and I have gotten calls from everybody out there. I mean, I once had Mario call for a story I was doing, set up by Tom McMillan, things like that.
That's a big one.
It's a big one. So is whoever, Ben, anybody else. I've talked to Joe Namath twice, and both times that I communicate with Joe Namath, the first time was early 2000s. He first left a message on my machine, and I can tell you that in my 40 years in this business, now 35 years in this business, there was nothing like it.
No.
Never have I run to my wife and said, listen to this. Joe blanking Namath.
I know.
On my answer. Why is that? Why is there that magic with him over everybody else?
Well, how do you think I feel being from Beaver Falls?
Yes.
But I remember the first time I talked to him, I remember exactly what. It was a Dodgers day game at Three Rivers Stadium, Pirates. And I'm there, and I was expecting a call back from him. And my phone rings, and I look down and answer, and I go, hello. He goes, Ron, yeah, this is Joe Namath calling. What do you think of that? I'll never forget that. How do you forget that? And I've had him on this show 3 or 4 times.
Yeah.
I mean, he's come on with me anytime, very gracious. Beaver Falls guys stick together. Like Terry Francona's from New Brighton, right across the river. We stick together.
I think is he the most famous football player who ever lived? I mean, honest to God, if I got a call from Montana or Jerry Rice or Jim Brown when he was alive, it would have been great. But something is magical. Well, Dulac was with me at the range yesterday. We were talking about it. He said, talking about how much you mean to him as well, all the road trips you've taken. And I said, I want to finish this with Namath. And
guess what, Joe?
No.
And we're going to finish.
We are.
We're going to finish it with Joe Namath. Broadway Joe from beginning to end. Joe, how are you? Talk to Ron Cook.
Hey, Ron, it's Beaver Valley, Ron and Joe, Beaver Falls.
Yes, sir, Joe. I'm a Beaver Falls boy and proud of it, just like you.
Well, thanks for having me on, you guys.
I appreciate you calling, man. We were just talking about how it's always a thrill to talk to you.
Well, I wish more people felt that way.
I think they all feel that way, Joe. How's your health? How are you doing? You okay?
Yes. It's not a perfect world, but the family's healthy. The grandchildren. My brother Frank moved on a couple of weeks ago. We'll be meeting up in not too distant future. But, I'm doing well enough. Thank you.
Well, I remember I had you on. You've been on with me a few times up here, and you had just turned 75, and you said, I'm entering the fourth quarter, and I always played my best in the fourth quarter. You're going to make 100, too.
You know what? I don't know about that. Always played my best in the fourth quarter. I've had some off fourth quarters in the past, yeah. But, it took me about a week and a half to learn to say the word octogenarian. And that was last May, you see.
Oh.
And growing up, whether it was in Beaver Falls or where were we, in the valley, did we ever think about reaching these kind of numbers?
Of course not. Of course not. Joe, I got to ask you, are you at the Super Bowl this week? Did you make it?
No.
Okay.
No,
I've seen you.
And I promise you, it's really by choice. The traveling's not as easy as it used to be.
No, I know.
It's I'm gonna watch it. That's for sure.
Well, I got to ask you, what it's like to be Joe Namath. We were just talking about that.
Yeah.
Everywhere you go, I mean, they must want to talk about Super Bowl III, right?
Well, a lot of people do, yes, and understandably, too, because, any game in the backyard or out in the street, if you lose 3 in a row, you don't get any respect. But we did it, and then the following season, the Kansas City Chiefs did it, and that's how the two leagues merged, man. We beat them the last 2 times, and that caused the merger.
Well, you'll always be a hero to me, man. You grew up in Beaver Falls. We all wanted to be you in the backyard game, man.
Well, Beaver Falls Tigers and all that. You know, people ask me about my football life and all, and I tell them the truth. You know, it started at home with my brother Frank and my brother Bob teaching me to Bob throwing from the air and Frank teaching me to do everything in sports. And Brother John, he was 12 years older than me, but he went off to the service, I think, when I was 6. Did Korea and 2 tours of Nam. And he and my brother Frank are together now. But I had a coach in high school named Larry Bruno.
Oh, I know all about him. All about him.
He came my junior year, and we had a senior quarterback who could play basketball, baseball, and football, Richie Nidabella. And Richie ended up going to Miami. But Richie Nidabella played ahead of me, of course. But I studied under Coach Bruno my junior year and watched Richie. And my senior year, boy, Coach Bruno put together a championship team.
And you played on them everywhere you were, man.
Yeah, well, again, the basics, some of the techniques, the footwork. Linwood Alford and Linwood was a neighbor that lived across the street from me. And Coach Bruno had Linwood and I go over to meet, clean up some junk out of Coach Bruno's backyard. And Linwood was doing some raking and me too, but Coach Bruno took me aside and started showing me footwork.
Wow.
Getting out from under center, going this way without any wasted motion, opening up far enough with the leg and the foot pointing in the exact direction you want to go, whether it's a pivot, the lead foot, you know, or going horizontally. He was a great coach, man, and God-given speed, quickness, and all, and the technique that Coach Bruno told me, I end up with Coach Brian at Alabama.
And the rest is history.
Yeah, man. And then in the pro ball with Weave Eubank, who had already won a world championship, maybe two, with the Colts.
Joe, I got to say one thing before we go here. My partner, Joe Starkey, went to Canton a couple weeks ago. And what do they call hologram?
A hologram of you.
Of hologram
Joe,
of you talking to us.
Amazing.
It was unreal. You remember doing that?
I sure do remember doing that, and I'm thrilled to death, first of all, and so honored to represent the Jets and my background of Coach Bruno and Coach Brian, you know, getting into that Pro Football Hall of Fame. And we did that, I think I did it yesterday. You say you saw it recently?
Yeah, we just were there a couple weeks ago.
Well, I'm not going to really mention how many years ago I did that.
Joe, I'll tell you this much. I've worked with Ron here for 6 years. He's been doing sports writing for over 40, in town, broadcasting for decades and decades. And I've gotten to know him better over the last 6 years. And he's unbelievably proud of growing up in Beaver Falls and has told me tons of stories about how you were his idol. And I can't tell you how much I appreciate you answering the phone and having this be literally his final segment. He's headed off to Florida this weekend to have you come on to put an end to a bookend to his career is just unbelievably special.
Thank you, Joe.
All right. Well, thank you, guys. I'll be looking to hear from you, Ron.
All right. I have your number. I will call you, man. Thanks, Joe.
Okay. You bet. Hello, WPA.
Joe,
how about
I can't
that?
even imagine. Joe Green and him in the last 15 minutes.
3 Joes.
We got to go. We got a show coming up. Thank you.
Ron, you're a good man, and I'm glad that we spent this time together. And we'll see each other again in Fort Myers. I'll be
man.
on the golf course. You'll be drinking in the car.
First time in a while, I won't be saying, see you tomorrow at 10. Huh?
That's exactly right.
Stay well, my friend. I love you.
Love you too, man.